Hey everybody, it is Mom of Two, Wife of One, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for all of the feedback that I got from my last video for episode 2 of Married at First Sight season 13. This is episode 3, review and recap of Married at First Sight. So if you guys are new here, I am Mom of Two, Wife of One. As the name indicates, I have 2 babies and I have 1 husband. And I talk about Married at First Sight, but I also do story time with my daughter on this channel. I've done movie reviews with my son on this channel. And I've also just given tips to moms or to wives about just whatever comes to mind. So stay tuned. Hopefully you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos that I post. And now we'll get started with Married at First Sight. If you guys have never watched the show before, it comes on Lifetime on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. And the show is basically a matchmaker show with these 3 experts narrow down thousands of singles to 10 singles, and they pair them and make 5 married couples. But the kicker is that you don't meet your spouse, your new husband or your new wife, until you get to the altar. And it just follows them through this process of being married for 8 weeks, learning each other's family, having the wedding night, having your first dance as husband and wife, going on your honeymoon, and then moving in together, and just all of the challenges that comes with marriage, but makes it doubly challenging that you're going through all this stuff related to marriage with a stranger. So last night was episode 3. Finally, all 5 couples are married. It took 3 weeks to get to this point. And I actually wrote a note. I had to remind myself that while it's been 2 or 3 weeks for me, it's only been hours for them, because it's still the same day of them getting married, which is kind of freaky and it's kind of hard to remember sometimes, but bear with me. So we're going to get started first with the 2 couples that got married last night. That was Rachel and Jose, and that was Brett and Ryan. So let me pull up my notes, because I try to be diligent and take a lot of notes because my memory is not what it used to be. So Brett and Ryan, I will say that I really like Brett. She is the redhead. I like her. I like her personality. I think she's very positive. She's bubbly. She is just like, not a firecracker necessarily, but she just seems like someone you would just really like to chill out with. And I noticed that in the beginning when they showed her telling her friends that she had even been accepted for this show. Really like her personality. I think she's really down to earth. Ryan, I don't really have a beat on just yet. He seemed, at least at the altar, he seemed really nervous. And he seemed like he didn't really know what to say. And you know, the other thing with this show is that the editors really hype things up. So from our end, when we see the edited version of the show, we see these long pauses and we see these facial expressions. So in our mind, things are really awkward. But in real life, the pauses could literally just have been like 2 seconds. But for us, they stretch it out to make it seem like they're feeling awkward and feeling uncomfortable with each other. So I don't really know how they're vibing with each other just yet. I know he's very attracted to her and she's really attracted to him. She's also the one who has not been in a relationship and has not kissed anybody in the past 2 years. But at the altar, she kissed him twice. And they didn't realize the significance of that until she reminded us, like, I haven't been kissed in 2 years and I've just been kissed twice in like 2 minutes. I was like, oh, that's right. Huh, okay. And also, I said something. Oh, I said I love when the grooms speak to the in-laws before vows are exchanged. I really like that. This whole process obviously is very unique and very different. So I love that when the men come down the aisle, the first thing that most of them do is go to the bride's side of the family and introduce themselves to the mother or to the sister or whoever's like sitting in the front row. And I like that they do that, because it shows, at least for me, it shows that you really care about getting to know this new family that is essentially going to be your new family. So I like that he did that. And also, like, one thing that the preacher said, the preacher for their wedding was super dry and really corny, and I hated the way he talks. Neither here nor there. But he said that I guess her family wants Brett to know that she's looking for someone to be her glass half full when she's half empty. And I liked that, but I don't know. I thought that was a really interesting thing to say. So I think what it meant is that when I am feeling down or I'm feeling depleted or I'm feeling like, you know, the world is coming in on me and I'm overwhelmed, you'll be the person to bring me out of my funk. You'll be the person to replenish me with your love, with your positivity, with your encouragement, with your inspiration. I think that's what that meant, which I think is good. I think that is something you should want in a husband, somebody who is going to be up when you're down, someone who's going to be full when you're empty. So I did like that the preacher said that. I thought that was a really great way to put it, because I've just never heard it put quite that way before. And I also love when they were at the altar, they're both gazing in each other's eyes, just almost smitten with each other right away. So I can kind of feel chemistry with them, which I like. Let's see, what else did I say? Um, so his backstory is that he's the former serial dater. He dated a lot. But I think his best friend passed away like 18 months ago, and it made him start looking at things in a different perspective and made him want to settle down and have a wife and, have this family. Now, they're both supposed to be hopeless romantics, so that's one of the reasons why they were put together. I'm just hoping that he wants this as much as she does. Right now, it feels like she's a lot more invested. Not saying that he's not, but again, it was hard to get a read on him because he seemed a lot quieter than I remember him being in earlier episodes. So the wedding was fine. They kissed twice. They danced, but their first dance was a two-step. And that was one of the things she was concerned about. Like, it seems like he's this, good down-home country boy. The first song was a country song. They're in Houston for this season. And it seems like he is, like, not rough and tumble, but he's like that ranch guy life. I don't know if he lives on a ranch, but he has that aura of listening to country music and like to do the little two-step thing and like to just have this kind of simplistic style. And she's like, I'm not a country girl. I don't know anything about that. I don't even listen to country music. I don't know how I'm going to fit into that. And I think it's common, especially for this kind of show, for the very beginning at the wedding to start kind of picking at things that are red flags for you. Because, again, I feel like too many people sign up for the show and they believe, okay, because these experts put me together with this person out of thousands of people, they found this one person that's for me. That means that this person is perfect. That means we're not going to have any issues, and that means we're going to be married for the rest of our lives. The problem is that they forget that just because the experts put this person with you, that doesn't mean this person is a perfect person or even perfect for you. Because sometimes as single people, when we're single, we have an idea of what we think we need, right? The expert's job is to give us partially what we want, but partially what we need. And a lot of times what we think we need isn't going to be good for us. And that's why people sign up for the show, because the things you think you want and need haven't been working for you. So now you have experts giving you something maybe completely different that throws you off guard. And too many people can't look past what looks different to them to figure out, okay, let me figure out why you're here, why the experts chose you for me. Once I can figure that out, I can lean into those aspects of you and stop focusing on the fact that you're not necessarily what I thought I wanted. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think all the couples go through that, and it's never pretty because most of the time those are the couples that tend to not stay married. But back to Brett and Ryan. One thing, okay, this is Brett and Ryan, but this is pretty much all of the women. I never understood why, granted, it's your wedding night. Granted, it is a stranger. I'm not trying to be overly sexy for the wedding night when it's time to go to bed. But why are all of y'all wearing long sleeves? Like, you're in Texas, too. And a lot of them had long sleeve wedding dresses. I didn't get that. Why are you wearing I have an issue with long sleeve wedding dresses, especially in Texas. I know it's not freezing. I just thought that was weird. And even going to bed, I thought that was strange. They're all wearing these long sleeve pajamas. Like, you don't have to say, you ain't trying to show a bunch of skin. That's fine. You may not want to have sex with him the first night because he's a stranger. That's fine too. But at least show a little something. At least have like a tank top. I just thought it was weird. And I wrote it down because a lot of them did it. And I was like, I guess, okay. So I say for them, because I feel like for the other videos, I gave my prediction. For Brett and Ryan, I'm going to say that they're going to make it just because there's been no indications that they're not going to. But I'm going to say that they're going to make it. That's my early prediction. For Rachel and Jose, now with Jose, he has a lot of insecurities physically. He's accomplished a lot. For a 35-year-old, he has gotten his bachelor's degree, he has his master's degree, he has absolutely no student loan debt, which is amazing because most of us still have that. He has bought and paid for 2 homes. He has a great career. Like, he has a lot of stuff going on, and he's checked all these boxes in his life with the exception of having a wife. But because of that, when you excel in all these other areas, there's going to be some part of your life that you're going to be really nitpicky about, or some part of your life that you don't feel as confident in. And for him, it's the way he looks. He's like, I know my nose is a little big, and he's a little on the shorter side for a man. I think he's under 6 feet. And so he's feeling insecure. So for him, finding a wife is about making sure that she finds me sexually attractive. That's very important to him. Whereas for Rachel, it's more important for her that she meets someone that has a great personality. And I was saying in the first few times that I saw Rachel, I couldn't really figure her out. And she seemed like she had kind of a boring personality. But this was my first time really getting to see her in her element with her girls and see her with her new husband. And she is very lively. She's bubbly. She's positive. She can carry on a conversation. I was like, okay, this is cool. And it seemed like Jose can as well. And they kissed several times throughout the whole episode, so they're definitely comfortable with each other. He was comfortable calling her my wife right away, which I think is always a good sign. But one thing I was kind of concerning. So if you guys saw the last season, you know the huge debacle that was Chris from the show, and how Chris was engaged, but I guess he and the fiance broke up 2 months before he was on the show. Now, the process for the show is a pretty long process, but I don't know how much time there is necessarily between when we see them shooting it and when they first sign up for it. So she said that her last relationship was 6 months ago and they broke up because the guy was unfaithful. But 6 months ago, I don't know how much time passed from when she broke up to when she signed up for the show. Was she just so heartbroken that she was like, oh, forget this, I'm going to sign up for the show so someone else can find me a husband? Was it like that? Or did she allow herself time to mourn before she signed up for this? Like, I don't know how much time passed. And I guess my fear is that if she hasn't allowed herself to really heal from that last relationship, and if a lot of time didn't pass between the breakup and her signing up for Married at First Sight, then Jose essentially could be a rebound guy. He'd be kind of a last minute ditch effort because she feels like, oh my gosh, I have to do something because I'm heartbroken and I need to be married or whatever. Or if she's just doing this almost to get back at the ex, like you just kind of never know in these situations. I don't really know her and know what her intentions are. So that kind of was like, I don't know. I feel like that's something kind of to look at. And also, if she hasn't completely healed from that relationship, a lot of things that went wrong in that relationship, maybe some red flags that she ignored, she may inadvertently put those things on Jose and may see things that aren't really there, which isn't fair to him, obviously. So I think that could be a little shaky, a little dicey. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think that's something to kind of look out for in future episodes. And okay, now I thought this was interesting. When they were at the altar and Jose's family was, saying things they want Rachel to know, they said that he's structured, but he's a risk taker. How can you be both? And maybe that's a dumb question, but I know I'm very structured and I feel like I don't really take risks, but I would love to know how to balance those two things and be more of a risk taker, but still be structured and be organized and all that stuff. I don't quite understand how that works. So I'm very curious about that. And then he's talking to her about where she lives and where she works. And he asked her, when is your lease up? I thought it was a really interesting question to ask. And I guess technically that's something you would ask later on. But I didn't think you would ask that the very first time you meet the person. Thought that was strange. But I think it's supposed to indicate that he sees this for the long haul. Like, okay, so your lease is up there. Cool. So I have 2 homes. So let me know which home you want to move to. And we'll move there when your lease is up. And we can do this and we can do that. I'm assuming that's why he asked her. Because he's already looking long term. But I feel like that kind of question and that kind of conversation should happen a little bit later, maybe in the relationship, when you guys are a little more established. But I like the fact that he's positive and thinking, okay, great, I'm married. This is my wife. 40, 50 years from now, this is still going to be my wife. This is great. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. But, kudos to him for thinking that it will. Oh, sorry, guys. Let me see. I don't know if this will stay. But, yeah, and so... Oh, and this is the other thing. They talked to the in-laws and talked to, the spouse's friends at the wedding. So, of course, towards the end of the night, all of the friends and family asked the couple, hey, so what's going to happen tonight? You guys think you're going to consummate and blah, 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 blah. Jose's stepmother was drunk as a skunk. And was like, yeah, girl, if you get enough alcohol in you should do it. Ooh, you're married now, girl. Yeah, get it, Rachel. I was like, really? There's always one. There's always one who drank a little too much of the special juice and is just off the rails and being inappropriate. And this time it just happened to be his stepmother. And I'm like, And Rachel kind of taking a stride like, oh, ha, 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 that's funny, huh? But, one thing I will say, Jose's not my type physically. When he's getting ready for bed, he got a 6-pack. I was like, okay, I see a 6-pack. He's still looking for me, not my cup of tea. But I was like, all right, I see that. And she knows it too. She's like, oh, he has a nice body. And another thing I like, they played a game when they got married and they went back to like have champagne before they took pictures. They played a game where she was like, let's start saying things about ourselves to see what we have in common. So they both speak Spanish. They both work out at least 3 times a week. They both were born and raised in Houston and just like other things. And I thought it was really cute to do that, to kind of see what we have in common, find out a little early on why the experts pit us together. So I thought that was really cute. And she was the only one that wore something kind of sort of sexy to bed. It was this really pretty, like rose gold colored, not rose gold, but like rose colored nightgown with a little matching jacket with it, but it looked like silk or satin. It was sexy. It wasn't over the top. She wasn't showing a lot of stuff, but at least it was appropriate for what I thought a wedding night, pajama attire should be. So I appreciated that for her. Another thing that was different from this episode that I haven't seen in any other season, normally when they have the wedding, they have it in a hotel, and then when the night ends, it shows them, leaving and people throwing rice or blowing bubbles or whatever, but then it just shows them basically getting in an elevator and going upstairs to their room, because the honeymoon suite is the same place where they have the hotel. This was the first time that I can ever remember that they showed them driving off to wherever the hotel suite is. So I like that Gil and Merida, they drove off in a fire truck because he's a fireman. I was like, oh, look at that. I've just never got to see that before, so it just stood out to me. I was like, that's really cute. Gil and Merida, though, let's get to them. I still don't see it for this couple. I really don't. I like that she's comfortable with him. She seems to really like him. He seems to really like her. However, his friends are very concerned because they know that Gil, he calls himself conservative with money. They call him cheap. They know how he is. They know how he views somebody who's really materialistic. They know how he values money. And obviously, as a firefighter, you don't make that much money, but I think even if he did, I think that would still be his personality. And Merida is all about, well, I worked hard for my money, and I've worked hard, because I worked so hard for my money, I use my money to maintain my lifestyle. I like going on international trips. I like buying purses and shoes. Like, this is what I like to do. And one of his friends basically were like, so basically you're high maintenance. She's like, well, I don't consider myself high maintenance. And they were trying to tell her in a nice way that it's great that you like to do these things, but when you're married, you're going to have to make adjustments here and there to incorporate your husband into things. And she was just like, blank face. She's like, well, why would I need to change my lifestyle? Like, I've worked hard for this lifestyle, so why would I need to change it? I would just need a husband who can come along with all the stuff I'm trying to do. They were looking at her like, baby girl, we're trying to explain to you that's not how marriage works. And the thing is, too many people do have that misconception that being married or getting married means that you have to change your entire life for this person. And that's not what it is. It's not that you have to change who you are. It's not that you have to change everything that you like and love. It's really not that at all. It's that now that you have this person, it is no longer just about you. So the way that you thought before was all about, oh, let me take off this time from work so I can take this trip, so I can go here, so I can buy this, so I can do that. As a married person, I'll speak for myself, as a married woman, I still have my individuality. I still have things that I'm doing on my own. But when I'm planning something now, I can't just be like, oh, I want to go there, I'm just going to do that. No, I talk things over with my husband, not to get his permission, not even all the time to ask him to come, but it's just a matter of, babe, I was thinking of doing this. It looks really fun, blah, blah, blah. And he can be like, oh, okay, that sounds fun. Or, I don't know, babe, maybe we should think about such and such and such and such. And again, it's not me getting permission. It's me involving him in the conversation. And that's what marriage is supposed to be about. You just involving somebody in the conversation and getting their input and appreciating and respecting their input. And it seems like she's not at that point yet. And it has me asking the question, should she have signed up for this show? Should she be, I don't say should she be married at all, but yeah, pretty much should be married at all, because she's not thinking about, oh, I can't wait to have a husband to build this life with. Like I said last week, she's about, oh, my life is great. I can't wait to add a husband to this life that I already have. And that's neglecting the fact that your husband may not be into the things that you're into. Neglecting the fact that for him, specifically Gil, he doesn't make as much money as she does. So he may not be able to do these international trips. He may not be able to buy all these things for her or for himself. And he may not feel right having her footing the bill for all this stuff either. So that's the conversation, obviously, that they need to have. I definitely see it's going to cause some contention because it seems like she's not willing to budge. But I think it's also hard to expect somebody to budge when feelings haven't gotten involved yet. when you are first dating somebody and getting to know them, you're not necessarily inspired or compelled to do things to make them happy right away. But once you get to the point where you love them and you care about them and you're not putting their needs above your own, but you have their needs in consideration, then that's when you start acting a little different and you start making different decisions. But she's not there yet because it has only been a few hours for them. And again, I had to remind myself of that because in my head, I'm like, but y'all been together for 2 weeks. And I was like, no, actually they haven't. They've been together for a few hours. So it hasn't been enough time to build up that care for him. Like, oh, I really want to do this, but if I do this, Gil will be uncomfortable. Or if I do this, Gil can't come with me. Or if I do this, Gil may have an attitude or whatever. So I feel like it's going to take some time, but she also has to be willing to allow that to happen, willing to allow herself to look at things in a different light. And I think only time will tell. I still don't really see it for either of them, but you never know. It could happen. But right now, it's like, it's not looking that great really for them. But let's see, did anything else? I don't think anything significant really happened with them. Oh, one thing I do like is that they're both on the same page when it comes to sex on the wedding night. Because his boys asked her that, and she's like, absolutely not. She's like, we're not even kissing now. We're focused on getting to know each other. But the way she said it, I didn't like necessarily the way she said it because she made it seem like she's running everything. Like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to wait to do this. We're going to wait to do that. And then when we're comfortable, we're going to do blah, blah, blah. But she's saying all this, presumably without having talked it over with him first. But when her friends asked him the same question, he basically said the same thing, but he was like, I'm going to wait until she's comfortable. He was like, for me, sex is about passion. There's no passion yet because we just met each other. That has to grow and it has to build. So I'm willing to work on it. I'm willing to get to know her better until we can get to that point where we're comfortable enough to, be physical. And the friend's like, oh, well, what do you have to wait 6 months? And he was like, I'll wait as long as she needs me to wait. So he put it on her. I'm going to wait as long as she needs me to wait. She was just like, no, we're not doing this. So I just felt like, and it's probably just a small thing, maybe because I'm a writer and an editor at heart, I focus on words a lot. But the fact that he included her in what he was saying, and she was basically like, we ain't doing this. I feel like she thinks she's going to run a lot of things. And I don't think Gil is the type of person that's just going to kind of lay down and let her say and do whatever to him. So we'll see. I think it's going to cause a lot of arguments in the future because I don't see her budging from her opinion. I don't see her budging from what she's used to doing. So I don't know necessarily how that's going to work out. I'm not overly hopeful with them. Like, I'm really not. Now let's go to Bao and Johnny. Bao and Johnny are really interesting. They clearly like each other. They clearly have a lot of stuff in common. One thing I love, when they were having their dinner together at their wedding, they discussed their love languages and put it on the table. Now, if you guys are not familiar with love languages, it was a book that was written years ago called The 5 Love Languages. And they've had different variations that have come out since then. But love languages, I know I'm going to forget one, but the 5 love languages are gifts, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. Oh, I remembered all of them. So those are the 5 love languages. And basically your love language is how you receive love. Now, each person may have 2 different kinds of love languages. You can have the way you receive love and the way you like to give love. But the thing is, let's say the way I like to give love is giving somebody a gift. That's the way I show love to people. That's all well and good, but that doesn't mean that me giving a gift to someone, that doesn't mean that they themselves will feel love. If gifts is not their love language, they don't care about whatever I give them. For instance, my husband, his love language is physical touch. That's his number 1 love language. That doesn't necessarily mean sex, but it does include sex. It includes holding hands, giving him a back massage, scratching his scalp, giving him a hug when he enters a room. Like, all of that stuff is really high for him. Whereas for me, physical touch is low on my list. And they have a free quiz online. If you just put in the 5 love languages quiz, you can take the quiz to figure out what your love language is. And if you're married or if you're dating, I highly encourage you to have your spouse or your partner do it as well. Because it is important. Because the way you're loving on your spouse or your partner may not be the way they're really receiving the love. But physical touch, like I said, is very low on mine. But I have to compensate and make sure that he feels loved. For me, I like to give love through words of affirmation. My husband don't care. If I tell him all the time, like, you're a great husband, a great provider, he'll be like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. It doesn't mean anything to him, and he doesn't feel loved. He's just like, okay, that's really nice. But what I want from you is a hug, or what I want from you is a kiss, or what I want from you is when I'm not feeling well and I tell you my neck hurts, I want you to volunteer to rub my neck. That's what he wants, and that's how he feels loved from me. And so I like the fact that Bao and Johnny had that conversation early. So Bao's love language is gifts and acts of service, and his is physical touch. Now, they're in a similar situation where his is physical touch, and physical touch is at the very bottom for her. So the issue with that is that can work for two people who have known each other for a while, who've been married for a while, who knows that, okay, it's not high on my list, but I need to make sure my spouse feels happy and that he feels loved. I'm going to do what I need to do. Doesn't quite work when you just got married at first sight. Now, granted, they know each other. They were acquaintances for like a decade, but they were never romantically involved. So the fact that physical touch is so low on hers, and she doesn't even really hug like that, she's going to have to be encouraged to give him what he needs. And I think physical touch is his love language because he mentioned in an early video that his mother never really told him that she loved him. And then his parents got divorced, and his father kind of went into his own thing and wasn't really active in Johnny's life like that. So I feel like he didn't physically he loves his family, he's very close to them, but I feel like he didn't really physically get that love that he needed. And I think it's because his mom didn't tell him that she loved him really. So he's kind of overcompensating and needs to be held and needs to be catered to almost. And again, if Bao had been with him for a while and like, this is my husband, I'm not comfortable with it, but this is what he needs, they should be more willing to do it. But there's no guarantee that in the 8 weeks after they're married, she's going to be at that point where she can give him what he needs, because it takes time to build up to that. And I was just talking to my husband about that last night. We've been married, September will be 8 years, and 18 years together. It took a while. I didn't grow up in a household where we hugged like that. Like, even now, hugging my parents, it feels weird and awkward because we didn't really do it like that. But I had to adjust because, like, okay, my husband, this is what he likes, so I have to hug him more, and I have to kiss him more, and I have to be comfortable hugging and kissing him in front of other people, which was an issue for me as well. But I got out of my comfort zone because I know that's what he needed. But it took time to do that. And Bao and Johnny, unfortunately, technically they have all the time in the world because they're married, but technically you have 8 weeks to make this decision. And for Johnny, he's basically going to have to base his decision off of what he thinks is going to happen in the years to come. But all the information he has just over these past 8 weeks. So I don't know if in those 8 weeks, Bao's going to be able to really give him what he needs. And that's going to make him feel unloved, and that's going to make him feel unworthy maybe of love, and that's not a great feeling to have. And I know she doesn't want that for him, but it's hard to get out of your comfort zone. So I was also thinking, like, how does that play into sex? If she doesn't really like being touched like that, does she mean, I don't say does she mean, but does that mean that she doesn't like sex, that she doesn't really hide and hold it in high regard, and she doesn't really want it like that? Does that mean that he's always going to have to initiate? Like, I'm very curious to know what exactly that means for them when it comes to being intimate. And one thing I did like, it was a nice little vulnerable moment for them, or not vulnerable, an intimate moment for them, is that when they were back in the hotel suite, he's trying to help her out of her dress. I felt so bad for him. He was struggling to get her dress off, which was really funny. But then at the end, she's trying to take all these bobby pins out of her hair, and he stood behind her and took her bobby pins out. And if you are a woman in general, especially if you're a black woman, if a man helps you take your bobby pins out, helps you take your braids out or your weave out or whatever, if he sits there and helps you do all that stuff, that is real love right there. And that is a sense of trust, because most women hold their hair in very high regard. You are sensitive about who gets near your head. So the fact that she allowed them to do that, I thought was really, really sweet. And I was like, oh, it was a nice intimate moment. It was really sweet. And then Michaela and Zach. Now, if y'all saw the preview for the season, it's not looking great for any of the couples. But you know, again, the way they edit the videos, they make it seem like all the couples are headed for divorce in the first week because they did this and they did this and they did this. But it looks like Michaela and Zach have some blow-ups. Now, actually, I take that back. It looks like Michaela has blows. Whenever she's blowing up and yelling or cursing or whatever, Zach seems like he's a person that's going to be very calm and very chill. Not that he doesn't get pissed off, not that he doesn't have that level of being, like, irate, but it doesn't seem like he expresses it in the same way that she does. But I digress because we're not there yet. And that's just based off of previews. And I know they can be edited to show certain things. So we're not going to go there. We're going to focus on last night. So last night, Michaela and Zach continued to dance and kiss. And he talked to her sisters. And she talked to his friends and his family. And he was like, you know, it's really weird. I already feel like she's my partner. I just really like being around her, and I feel so comfortable with her. And they're having a great conversation. And I love the fact that he was talking about, she asked him, you know, were you on dating apps before? He was like, I was, but I prefer to kind of talk in person. And I love that. For someone who's 27, I feel like that's very rare for someone in their 20s to say, I prefer face-to-face over these dating apps. I really like that. And I feel like it shows that he's more mature than his years let on. One other thing that I thought was interesting that could potentially be a red flag in the future as well. He talked about how he did not have, because she said, you know, you seem really confident. He's like, I was when I was younger. I was really skinny and I was, you know, dark skinned and they didn't really come for me like that. And I was teased and blah, 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 blah. And so I feel like he's over that, but because he still has that in his back pocket, you know, he's still probably struggles with that a little bit. I don't know if that means that in the future she'll have to constantly reassure him, because he also said, outside of his looks, he said in his video and leading up to getting married that I just hope she's happy with me. I hope I can be the best husband ever. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself to be perfect for her, and never talked about what he wanted her to be to him. So I feel like, and I said this before, I feel like that means he could put himself in a position where he's denying what he needs to make sure that she's happy. But in addition to all of that, he could be putting her in a position where she feels like she has to constantly reassure him that he's doing okay, that he's doing a good job as a husband, a good job as a provider or whatever. And that's a lot to put on a person who's like, yo, you're doing a good job. Like, it can be draining for a person if that's what you're always needing from them. So I don't know if that will happen, but it was like, potentially that could be an issue, but we'll see. And let's see. The other thing, well, first of all, he gave her a lap dance at the wedding, which I thought was really cute. And just really, it showed their personality. It showed that he's really silly, she's really outgoing. So I think their energy definitely matches each other for sure. But I liked when they got to their hotel suite, their wedding, you know, honeymoon suite, that they're both laying down on the bed, but he has his head in her lap and she's scratching his scalp. Now, again, if you are, I don't want to say specifically a black man, but just a man in general, that's a very vulnerable position to be in, a very intimate position to be in, to trust this woman to lay your head in her lap and just allow her to play in your hair or scratch your scalp or rub your neck or whatever. I just thought it was really sweet and intimate, and a lot of the couples that we've seen in past seasons don't do that the first night. Like, it leads up to that, but to already have that connection and that level of familiarity and trust and comfort with the person that first night is very rare. So I like the fact that a couple of the couples were able to have that already from jump. So I mean, we'll see. I still believe that Michaela and Zach will make it. I still think Brett and Ryan will be okay. I think Bao and Johnny have a good chance. Not saying it for Merida and Gil. For Jose and Rachel, I think the only way they won't make it is if Jose becomes a little too picky. I know that Rachel's fear is that she'll lose. She basically worked hard to build her confidence after being cheated on in the last relationship. So her fear is that this guy, whoever he is, you know, now it's Jose, that he'll strip her confidence in some way. And so I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Rachel will continue to use her voice to express herself, to say what she likes and doesn't like, and to express the things that she needs. But I feel like they are maybe. I'm gonna say that. Jose and Rachel are maybe. So let me know if you agree or disagree. Let me know if there are things that you saw in the episode that maybe I didn't talk about that you want to discuss. You guys know that I love talking about the show with you in the comments. So yeah, feel free to comment away, share, like, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.